Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for those of you that have chosen to join us live today. I am Jessica Hayes of the Lockbox Advantage, and we have the illustrious Darlene Espinoza with Cross Country Mortgage here to answer all of our questions about the real costs between renting a home and choosing to buy. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of us out there who just don't understand the difference. So thank you so much, Darlene, for taking the time to join us today. I genuinely appreciate it. I'm also hoping we can pick your brain about how this NAR settlement might change some of these things if you're up for it.
Sure.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start out by asking you if you could just walk us through some of the basics. And do you want me to share your screen or do you want me to hold off on that?
I'm sorry, Jessica, say that last part, you broke up.
Sorry about that. Do you want me to share your screen so that the folks that are watching can see what's on it right now?
Sure. Do you want me to go? I'll go through the real estate market. Yes. Are we
That
on?
would be great.
Okay. All right. So I'll just get right into it. First off, I believe, as you know, real estate is the absolute best way to create wealth. And for families and for renters, we have to be able to show them where it makes good financial sense for them to do that. I'm basing this on a market in Contra Costa County, California, which is where I am right now. And the median price home is $807,000. So when we look at that and we look at what forecasted appreciation is, it's important for buyers to understand how they create wealth with real estate, that they're not just creating a debt. So in this case, over 5 years, this purchase is forecasted to be worth over $1 million in 5 years. And when we look at that, that's an outstanding return on investment. But when we look at renters in this same market where I pulled this from, there's over 380,000 renters in this market. And of that, almost 100,000 of them could afford to buy. So what we want to do is show over. I'm going to expand this a little bit. Did it expand on your screen, Jessica?
Yes, looks perfect.
Okay, so what I want to talk about here is educating home buyers on how buying versus renting compares. So in this case, again, I'm using the same area, Contra Costa County, where the median price is $807,000 here. And to rent a home at that price point, the rents average would be between $4,100 and $4,500 a month. So the rents are high here. But when you compare it, if we look down here, year one, buying a home, it is going to cost more. You have principal and interest, you have property taxes, homeowners insurance. And in this case, on this comparison, I'm basing it on a first-time home buyer putting 5% down. So they're investing a little over $40,000, and their payment's going to be about $2,000 a month. Over 9 years, that's a cash flow difference, a loss to the renter of $102,000. So a lot of times renters think it doesn't make sense to own. And this is
Right.
a tool that we really want them to understand in terms of where they do create the wealth at. So with the appreciation on the home, that's just the home values going up. That same home is forecasted to go up $482,000 in the 9-year period of time. In addition to that, the renter would have paid their mortgage balance down $92,000, and there's also a tax benefit when you own a home. You get to write off the interest portion of the loan, and you also get to write off the property taxes. So when we take that into consideration, this same renter has saved $69,000 plus in income taxes. Those are real dollars, and we're just moving them from the bucket to the IRS back into their own cash flow to help them with home ownership. So if we compare it over 9 years, look what the gain is for that renter If they were to sell that house, even after paying 6% commission, they're still going to net $457,000. So it's just a wonderful way to create wealth.
And I want to just point out here, because I know this is super basic for you, but for us realtors, and we don't do these numbers all the time,
Yeah.
that 457,000 gain over the course of 9 years is really a result of your initial investment that was only 5% of the $800,000 purchase price, right?
Yeah, it's that plus the closing costs, and I estimated these at 8,500 because those are the
Okay.
out-of-pocket dollar amounts.
Okay. So if they were putting 5% down, are you estimating like 3% closing costs?
Yeah, I estimated in this market it would be a little over 1%. So here in the middle, you'll
Okay.
see 8,500. That's what I estimated for closing cost.
Closing costs.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just going to do some scratch math here. If we're taking that 5%, which is around 40,000 plus the 48.5, we've got $48,500 that they invested, and 9 years later, they have the potential to get $457,000 back.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
And I
they get
know I'm
to paint the walls whatever color they want to.
whatever color they want, and they get to have the dog that they want, right? And they're not
Correct.
stressed out about what's going to happen if the landlord decides to sell.
Yes.
There's a
Exactly.
lot of stability and quality of life that happens with owning your own domain, right? Now,
Absolutely.
I know that people will argue, well, they're also paying the higher mortgage payment. And I don't know if you're going to get into this, Darlene, but I do want to point out rents increase too.
Yeah.
I have been in this business for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen a year where rents have dropped dramatically year over year.
Yep. They
So when
just
we're
go
assuming
up.
that they're going to pay, yeah, they just go up. So when we're assuming they're going to pay, say, 4,500 today, that doesn't mean they're not going to be paying 6,500 next year or the year after that, right? So
Exactly.
that's their monthly cost, and it's fixed, which means as the market goes up and rents get higher and higher, you've secured that monthly payment. And I think there's a lot of value in that security personally.
Yeah, there's huge value. Like we spoke about in year one, it's a $2,000 difference in monthly cost.
Uh-huh.
In
Yep.
year five, that's dropped in half. It's $1,000 difference. And that's just assuming a 6% rent increase annually. And we know it's often the rents go up higher than that. And by year nine, it's really the same cost at that point. And they own it, and they're almost a $500,000 ahead.
Love that. So thank you for entertaining me and kind of going through that for us laymen here. But I
You're
think
welcome.
it's so important that we're able to eloquently explain that to our clients, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox and let you take it over, Darlene.
No, I think this is really important. When I speak to first time buyers, most buyers think of it as a liability. They think of it as a true cost. It's another bill, it's a car payment, but this is, they're creating almost $1 million in debt. I often advise clients to create a budget and to also do personal financial statements on themselves each month so that each month they're tracking their appreciation gain, they're tracking how much they're paying down, their mortgage, how they're reducing the balance each month, because that's all net worth to them. So they'll see their net worth go up each and every month. And there's something about when you look at yourself and you're evaluating how much money you have in the bank and what your net worth is, when you see it increase a little bit each month, you're able to save more. Somehow magically, it just happens because you're more conscious of how you spend your money. And you start to think of, what can I do with this equity? We're just basically touching on the surface. But, I think back, short story, Jessica, when I bought my first home years ago, back then in California, I bought a home and it was $232,000. I sold it 5 years later at $750,000. And, we haven't even spoke about the capital gains exclusion that's available, but I used that profit from that home and bought another primary residence and used the money to buy a triplex in a different city that had rental income of $3,600 a month at the time, which was enough to offset the cash flow on that investment property. So what that did for me at that time was allowed me to get into a new home. It allowed me to purchase investment property that cash flowed out each month, meaning the income offset the expenses for it each month. Plus, I had the value of the appreciation on that triplex that I bought also. So when you look at the numbers and analyze it out, it's pretty powerful where people can understand real estate is the absolute best way to create wealth. And in fact, it's how most people in the United States create wealth. It's how they pay for their children's education. It's how they buy other investment opportunities, weddings, births. They cover all of that and they're able to do that. And then it supplements their retirement down the road.
Abso-friggin-lutely. And I really think that people who maybe were not born with a trust fund, I was not born with a trust fund, you were not born with a trust fund. I think there's this illusion that, if you're not born into a super wealthy family, that you just really don't have the same opportunities. I genuinely believe that real estate is the way to start from square one, right? Like this is your cornerstone foundation piece that anybody can attain with enough, self-discipline and commitment.
Yeah.
Really,
Yes.
anybody can buy a home. And when you get to buy that home, understanding that that is your first stepping stone, right? Because can you imagine saving up, what was it, $60,000, however much money it was, to get into your first home, and then 9 years later having almost $500,000 in equity? I don't know anybody that's been able to save $500,000 over the course of 9 years just by putting pennies in the bank.
Yes. Yes.
And so this is your shortcut. This is your cheat code to jump a few levels ahead, to really build that foundational wealth, and starting out with that $500,000 on your next home, or accessing that equity to pay for tuition, or whatever the case may be that's going to set you up into that next stage. And I think for a lot of people watching this, they may be thinking, well, $800,000, that's not what a house costs. It is in Contra Costa County.
Yeah.
But let's say, for the sake of argument, right, that your first home is going to cost half of that. Say it's going to cost you $400,000. If we assume the appreciation stays on a similar pattern, that's still $250,000 in 9 years. That's still a significant stepping stone. That's still huge. And so I'm so sorry that I'm talking over you right here, but I'm so passionate about this because I think that people don't understand the overall benefit of real estate ownership. And it breaks my heart to see people languishing in rentals because they believe that's the safer option. They believe that that's the cheaper option. And the amount of money they lose by not getting in as soon as they're responsibly able to do so is devastating to me. I don't understand. So I really want us to educate our clients on the lost opportunity that happens when you wait. Oh gosh, I think we lost your mic, Darlene. So sorry.
Am I back?
There we go.
Okay.
Yes, you're back.
There's a definite loss with waiting, right? Because you're missing out on that appreciation. Plus, you're going to pay a higher price for the home. And the other thing I want to mention, we know right now interest rates are artificially high. And we know towards the end of the year, third quarter or so, we expect to see interest rates start to come down. These scenarios and these return on investments are based on where current interest rates are right now. Now is the absolute best time to buy because now where rates are where they are, you could secure your purchase price, start gaining that appreciation on the home, And then when interest rates come down, you can refinance and reduce your expenses, which makes your profit margin go up, but you won't be paying a higher price for the home like others will when they do decide to wait 6 months or 12 months or so. Now is the time to be getting ready, even if you're not in a current position to buy, but it's certainly the time to talk to somebody well versed in mortgage loan origination that can help you, guide you through a path, put you on a game plan to put you in place so that you can be able to afford a home and have it be within your monthly budget means.
I agree. And I think, a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that I'm like an aggressive salesperson when I say this, but I genuinely believe there's really no sense in trying to time the market to find the perfect time. I genuinely believe the absolute best time for you to buy a home is as soon as you can responsibly afford to do so. That's the answer. Like as soon as you
Yes.
can do it, pull the trigger.
Yep.
Because it's the lost opportunity that you want to avoid, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know you explained this, but I'd like to point it out again because I'm not sure that everyone in our audience is going to fully understand it on the first go round. But there is a savings with your tax write-offs that does offset your overall cash balance, right? Your personal P&L at the end of the year. While you may be paying more on your monthly housing payment, your tax deductions do offset a significant portion of that cash flow. Can you explain that for some of us that are not so intuitive with it?
Yes, and I cannot see what you're looking at, but can you move the
I'm not
flyer up?
looking at it on your screen. Um, I'm not looking at the screen. I'm just revisiting
Oh,
what you had
okay,
mentioned.
got it.
Yeah,
So in terms of what you're able to write off, rents, you're not able to write anything off. So that's a true expense, correct? On
right.
mortgages, when you own real estate, you're able to write off the interest portion of the loan up to a loan amount of 750,000. So that interest is a deduction. It's deducted from your gross income before you're taxed. In addition to that, you're able to write off property taxes, and you're able to write off property taxes up to a cap of $10,000 a year. So when you go to file your income taxes, let's say, a person makes, I'm just going to throw easy number out there, $100,000 on their W-2 form, taxable income. When they have that, they might have put 15,000 or so into a 401k. A lot of people are doing max contribution. So just like their 401, that's deducted from their income and it's pre-tax dollars. They're not taxed on it. Mortgage interest on your primary home and property taxes are deducted next. And whatever that net number is what your ordinary income taxed. That's what you're taxed on. So that income tax savings, for most people, it comes in the form of a refund when you go to do your taxes. I always recommend, and I probably will just bring it up right now, I do have clients that say, what if I change my exemptions where I could net more on my paycheck? I typically don't recommend that because tax laws change, income brackets change, and what I usually tell a client is if they're going to see a good tax planner each year and be able to tell the tax planner, my foreseeable or forecasted income this year is X. I'm going to be contributing X into my tax deferred plan through my employer. My mortgage interest deduction is this. My property tax deduction is this. What will my tax obligations be? That good tax planner could help them come up with a plan of where their exemptions should be. The problem is that typically incomes go up, and as income goes up, it can put you into another tax bracket and you can get yourself in trouble. And I think there's a lot of people, especially renters, that do their own taxes. And if you're not familiar with tax law, we know how things change constantly. It's a moving target. So for most people, I say if you're not going to see a tax planner each year, then just leave your paycheck as is. When you get your refund, you can use that money. That's additional money that you would have already spent if you were renting, right? It's additional money that you could invest in a side fund. You could pay it down on your principal. You could start saving it towards your next investment or real estate.
That's what you should do with it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I really appreciate you indulging me and explaining that. Um, Another thing I kind of want to go back and revisit on this handy dandy tool of yours.
Mhm.
And for those of you who are watching live or even watching the replay, Darlene is able to help you in any of the 50 states in the US
Mhm.
really break this down. But one of the things that you pointed out to us is how many renters there are living in Contra Costa. And you've got the data on how many of those renters can theoretically afford to purchase at the average housing cost. So,
Correct.
can you tell me a little bit about where that data comes from and how people can tap into that as real estate agents to help find those people and put them in homes?
Well, sure. I use MBS Highway, and MBS Highway is founded by Barry Abib. You probably recognize his name. He's a speaker on CNN and CNBC frequently when it comes to following the market, bonds, and treasuries, things that affect mortgage interest rates. So he has these tools available to us. Your clients can just contact me, give me whatever cities, what counties they're interested in doing. I could co-brand these for them specific to the market. We have so many tools available to help them with their potential buyers, to help them understand. It's almost like financial engineering, right? To
Yes.
break it all down for a person to sit down and take the time to understand what their money's going to do for them. Keep in mind, I base this scenario on 5% down. Throughout the United States, I mean, there's many down payment assistance programs that are available. It's different in every state, but using a down payment assistance program or even with your own money, in many cases, you can purchase a home with as little as 3% down payment.
Right.
It's not the standard 20% that some people believe. It's a misconception that they think they need 20% plus in order to purchase a home. It's not the case. The government wants people to buy real estate. Real estate is what moves the market. It's what grows the economy. When somebody buys a home, realtors are working, contractors are working. The buyers are going to the big box stores, Home Depot and Lowe's, buying paint. They're getting floor covering. Screens are being repaired. There's, lots of things being purchased. Landscapers are working. Pool people are working. It helps move the economy. And if I can share one thought, Jesse, I touched on it a little bit, but you brought up about creating family foundational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to understand if a person took their money, say that same 40,000, put it in the stock market and just let it grow for 9 years, right? If we did a comparison, we also have the tools to compare future value of money. The clients can tell us what they anticipate they're going to earn, whether they think it's
Right.
40% or 15%, or maybe they think they're going to earn 25%. When you run the numbers side by side, real estate always wins, always wins. And it's so important for consumers to understand that. But in addition to that, if they did have their money in the market, I'm not saying that the stock market's bad. Absolutely, it's not what I'm saying. But if they did have money in the market versus buying a home, down the road, they're going to be paying capital gains tax on the growth of that money. But on real estate, when you sell it and you realize what that gain is, cash in hand, if you're a single person in the US and sell a home and you've lived in it 2 years out of the last 5 years, that's what's classified as a primary residence, you can net profit of $250,000 without a single dime of income taxes. If you're married, that's 500,000, and that's what's called the capital gains exclusion. And you get to do that over and over again. You wonder why people don't stay in real estate, they don't stay in houses long term. Most people sell between 5 and 7 years because
Right.
they know they can take that profit, use it to buy other things, not pay taxes on it, and start it up again. And usually each time they move, they're either bettering the community that they're in, maybe the schools, bigger home, but they're changing up the lifestyle that they have, and they are creating that foundational wealth that you spoke about.
Absolutely. Hallelujah. Amen. I love all of that. I don't want to totally change gears, but I do want to bring this up because we are talking about that first time home buyer getting started and then being able to kind of climb that proverbial ladder, right? Rung by rung to get to that ultimate lifestyle that they're looking for. With this NAR settlement, all the rage, all the questions, right? What's going to happen with first-time homebuyers who can't afford to pay for their down payment, their closing costs, and commissions?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a lot of feelings about this. I've talked about this more than once. And my stance is that it's much ado about nothing, quite honestly. What has always been and will continue to be, buyers are going to bring a lump sum of money to the table that will likely include a loan of some kind. That lump sum of money is going to go to an escrow company that's going to pay off all the applicable liabilities that were created in that transaction. And what's left over is going to be delivered to the seller as their net profit. Now, whether that commission comes out of the buyer side or the seller side, in my opinion, really makes no difference. The buyer spends the same amount of money, the seller makes the same amount of money. What's going to happen moving forward is that we're going to have to negotiate in the contract our fees to be paid for, whether that's paid for a seller concession or paid directly from seller to the buyer's agent / selling brokerage. And for those of you who are not in the industry, oddly enough, listing brokerage references the seller's agent. Selling brokerage represents the buyer's agent. I did not make this terminology up. I'm very sorry for the confusion. But in any case, in my opinion, I think the safer option for real estate agents is to write into the contract that the seller will contribute X percent, and we're not going to talk specifics because there's enough lawsuits in this world, but X percent of the final purchase price directly to the selling brokerage, insert brokerage name here. And the reason I say that is because we need to be hyper aware of maximum loan credits. Can you talk to us a little bit about maximum loan credits for different types of loans so that as agents, we can be more educated on what that looks like?
Sure. Let me see if I could pull up. I have a little cheat sheet. Did that come up?
It hasn't come up yet. I'm going to go ahead and pull your screen off, and then maybe you can stop sharing and reshare. I'll put it up again. Sorry to put you on the spot. I know that's not your favorite thing. It's not anybody's favorite thing.
Hold
But
on,
I
I'm
think
going to try to share screen and we'll see if we could get it up here. So it should be up on the screen now.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, so different types of loans on the left side. I just use this as a cheat sheet. I keep it in my binder because it's hard to remember everything about loans, even though I've been doing this over 20 years. It's just an easy sheet to use. So on conventional loans, principal residence or a second home, which would be like a vacation home. If a buyer has less than 10% down, then the maximum allowable seller credit would be 3% of the purchase price, not the loan amount. If they have 10% or more, they can get 6% seller credit. They could try to negotiate up to 6%. And if they're putting 25% down or more, they could actually negotiate up to 9%. If you're buying a home that's an investment property, meaning you are not going to live in it, you're going to rent it out, regardless of what your down payment is, 2% is the maximum seller credit. FHA loans, which a lot of first-time buyers use them. FHA loans allows as little as 3.5% down. But on all of the FHA loans, you can negotiate up to a 6% credit. On veterans VA loans, regardless if they put money down or it's 100% financing, you can get up to a 4% credit. So essentially, these credits can be used to offset the buyer's closing cost, their escrow, the prepaid interest, their first year homeowner insurance costs, whatever impounds need to happen for property taxes. Those things can be paid. That money can also be used towards doing a buyer-seller buy-down to lower the interest rate, discount points. And the thing that's happening with NAR right now, even prior to that, in the market that we're in, there's not enough houses for sale, right? We have more buyers than houses. So it's oftentimes we see multiple offers. We have multiple clients who want to buy the same house and they write their offers. I just closed one a little over a month ago where the buyer, to make their offer more attractive to the seller, is they offered to pay 3%. They offered to pay the buyer's commission rather than have the seller pay it. And that was it. That was what allowed them to be able to get their home, and their offer got chosen, and it made it really nice. So it's able to be done. It's all about negotiation, which is why you need to work with a good realtor who knows what they're doing, knows how to negotiate, and everybody should have somebody representing them. You need a good lender to help you navigate the maze of lending. It's not just, one size fits all on a loan. We need to look at your profile, your loan profile, and figure out what your options are, and then work with you to determine what's going to fit in your overall financial plans.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Who you work with matters. It's going to be super important that as a buyer, you partner with a real estate agent who is going to be able to negotiate whatever concessions are necessary, whether it be in the form of a seller credit or direct to selling brokerage payment. And keep in mind, because there are maximum credits allowable, if you're in a situation where you're able to retain that inspection contingency, and you think there's a possibility that you may need to negotiate some sort of credit to compensate for condition issues that are potentially going to be found, it's probably a really good idea for you to structure that offer in such a way that none of your maximum credit is taken up by those commission dollars. So that's going to be really, really important as real estate agents, that we keep that in mind. And just as a consumer, make sure that you're educated and you're making sense of the contract that you're submitting. Now,
Yes.
Make sure your agent and your lender are working together in tandem every step of the way, because it's going to be so important that that agent drafts the contract that works for your loan. It has to be structured to protect your interest from every angle. And that's where it's going to be so important that you're working with, an agent and a lender who are in lockstep, in my opinion. And I'm sure you agree, right, Darlene?
1,000%.
All right. Well, we don't have any questions, which means you did such a fabulous job that everyone now has, a 30-minute PhD in financing. Really appreciate all of the knowledge that you've shared with us today. For those of you who are planning to join us next Friday, we're going to be talking about how to build your brand as a real estate agent. But before then, on Monday, we're having a special edition mastermind where you can log in as a live audience member with my conversation with Keith Barrett, who is an attorney in Virginia, who's very, very active in the real estate community there, owns a title company called Vesta Settlements. We're going to be breaking down this NAR settlement, what it means for you, what it doesn't mean for you, and how we can best move forward in serving our clients. So I invite you to join us then. That's going to be Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to continue on with our regular schedule. So with that, have a fabulously productive day. If anyone is in need of a fantastic lending partner who understands what it's going to take to move forward in this crazy market, obviously you should be calling Darlene Espinoza with Cross Country Mortgage. Again, she can help you in all 50 states. So we'll make sure we include her contact information in our follow-up emails today. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Jessica.